This meeting is recorded. This is a main share meeting, and today it is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Olis S. from North Carolina, who's come to share for about 40 minutes with us today, after which we'll open up the room for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask Olis a question. So Olis, it's fantastic to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, family. My name is Olis, and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want to begin with thanks. It's the way that I try to begin because I try to live my life in gratitude. And I want to thank Young for always inviting me. It's one thing to be invited someplace, but as you guys all know, it's another thing to be invited back, right? And I want to apologize because once Young invited me and I overslept and he called me and I was in a dead sleep. And ever since then, Young's like, "Are you coming? Are you coming? Are you coming?" So Young, I'm sorry that you worry about me, but no, not an early morning person, folks. Sky, thank you for being our host. Thank you for being our leader. I love that you do it with the shirt and a tie. I love you for that. Audrey, thank you for reading. Michelle, thank you for reading. And Lanjil, thank you for reading. I know I botched that. I'm American, poorly educated, but I love you. So I want to talk about the reading that I selected, but I want to do it from the point of view of talking to the new people or talking to the people that have been here for a while but are not living in joy. So here's the question. Are you right now living in joy and freedom? Because if you're not living in joy and freedom, then my offering is really for you. And I want to say that if you've got 0 days or 40 years, there's always more joy and freedom available to us. And it's in direct proportion to how, uh-oh, did I lose you guys? I don't know what happened. Are you still there? Okay.
Still there. Still there.
I don't know what happened to my computer.
We're here. Olis. Go ahead, darling. Sorry for that.
It's okay. I thought it was me. No matter how much time you have, there's more joy and freedom. And it really, my experience is based on how much work I'm willing to do. So I'm going to be talking about work. Don't get mad at me. You're in a 12-step program. You might as well do the 12 steps. Okay. So my sobriety date is May 21st, 1987. And I'm looking at some of you, and I know that that was before you were born. I know. It's like stunning to me, too. Like, I can't even believe it. But if you're here, here's what I want to tell you. If you don't drink and you don't die, you could be an old timer, too. Yeah, it's really kind of simple. The question is, what is the quality of our life? That's the question. Like, can we be joy makers in our life? Can we be, the book talks about it as the spearhead of God's ever advancing world. Can we do that? And the reading that I picked is about that. I'm going to go over the first part again. When fear persists, because that's what fear will do. Fear will persist. And when I was new, I thought that fear persisted because I wasn't doing the work. And what I've come to understand is that sometimes fear just will persist. Something's happening on my end. We knew it for what it was, and we became able to handle it, right? So this is the truth for anything that persists that we pay attention to, right? Lust, greed, anger, resentment. When those things in our life persist and we focus on I'm going to talk about what I do, turn to God. And I'm like, God, what is this about? What is it that you want me to know? How is it that you want me to grow? That when it persists and I turn to my Creator, based on having worked the steps, which I'll come back to, I become able to handle it. And again, it doesn't matter. This is talking about fear. But sometimes it's anger. Let me talk about where I'm at 36 years. Sometimes I get so mad. Oh my God, I get so mad. I get so mad. Oh my God. Oh my God. I get so mad. Does that happen to anybody? Put your hand up. Do you get so like I'm burnt up? I'm just driving along and all I could do is think about, oh my God, I'm just burnt up. Right. Right. Yeah. And the only thing that I have found when it stays on me, when it persists, is this practice of turning to the power and being like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? Okay, God, how do you want me to handle this? Okay, God, what do you want me to know? Okay, God, what am I supposed to do? That in this place where it's on me, it persists. What do I do? Because it says, and we became able to handle it. I turn to God. We begin to see that each adversity as a God-given opportunity to develop. Here's what my friend Brenda J says. She says, is spiritual sandpaper. Yeah, that's what it is. Spiritual sandpaper. That sometimes what's happening is that God is smoothing out my rough edges. That God is smoothing out the path that I need to travel. Probably for the first 2.5 decades, I thought that adversity was something I needed to overcome. I needed to have a solution. And let me just say, I'm an Excel spreadsheet, to-do list, pivot table, get it done, checklist kind of girl. Oh yeah. But, and I still do that. I'm not even mad at myself about that, right? But I now understand that all of that is self-will. All of that self-will. Now it's, if I do it in alignment with God, the proper use of my will, the will that God's given me, the brain that God has given me to use. But when I attempt to overcome something deep in me, a deep resentment, deep anger, deep fear, deep fear, I can't. Let me just admit this. On my own, I can't stop drinking. On my own, I can't stop being selfish. On my own, I can't stop being resentful. On my own, I can't stop being afraid. I just can't. And I don't know about you, but I'm a G. Oh my God. I'm a strong, resilient, resourceful, extraordinary, indomitable soul. That's who I am, right? But I can't, because what the program teaches me is some things are beyond human power. And my experience is that fear is beyond human power. And so what I learned is to use the tools in Alcoholics Anonymous. I learned to turn to the power. So that when it comes, it's not poor me. Because you know what poor me leads to? Poor me, pour me a drink, right? This is the point in which I should tell you the victims don't recover. I'm going to just tell you that. Let me stop for a moment, tell you what that means. When I'm afraid, when I'm angry, when I'm resentful, when I feel defeated, when I feel alone, when I feel any negative feeling, and what my mind does with that is turn to what you have done. I'm a victim. Oh, my mother abandoned me. Oh, I got fired. My husband cheated. This person is actually inappropriate with me. They're unkind. I've gotten the short end of the stick. When I turn to that, I am putting myself from, I've been victimized, because sometimes it's real, sometimes it's fancied. Often I'm imagining I've been wronged, but sometimes it's real. Here's a real example. Don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at me. There's always column 1 though, but don't be mad at me. I'm sponsoring this guy and he calls me And he's been fired from, like, I don't know, 5 jobs. Boom, 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 boom. He just keeps getting fired. And he says, Alice, you know what the problem is? The problem is he's black. I'm black. The problem is the people are racist. And you know what I say to him? You damn right the people is racist. Yeah. But the rest of us ain't getting fired. So what you doing? Yeah, that's right. I can win in any environment, almost any environment. I can overcome almost anything. So when in my discomfort, my dis-ease, my suffering, I turn externally to what you've done and how you're wrong and how it ought to be. And oh, it comes from fill in the blank. I've moved from being victimized, real or fancied, to being the victim. Because as long as something I suffer from is your fault, there's nothing I can do about that. The truth is, this is the truth. This is the truth. We couldn't control what we put in our mouth. How about that? That's how we got here. We couldn't control what we put in our mouth. But then we start thinking we can control some whole other person, some whole other, I'm going to control the leadership team on my job. I'm going to control the company. I'm going to control my city, my county, my gut. No, I'm not going to control nothing but me. And the choices that I make in alignment with the power. And so every adversity really is an opportunity to grow spiritually. Sometimes mentally, sometimes socially, sometimes financially. But every adversity, when I use the tools in Alcoholics Anonymous, is an opportunity to grow. Here's the part that I love. I love the end of the beginning of the reading where it says that we can only properly do this in surrender. Now, it uses the word humility, but I read that to be in surrender. Right? Let me tell you what I think that means. When I have a problem, I'm afraid of something. You know, and during life, I've been afraid of all kinds of things. I retired in 2017, and I had a really hard time leaving my position. And I went and got a therapist because, you know, outside help. And I bought 10 sessions. And it took me 6 sessions with the therapist to be able to form the words and say aloud that I was leaving my job. It was really an important part of my identity. And I went back for the session after I had conquered that beast, right? With God's help and the therapist. And I was like, okay, now I'm afraid I'm going to be poor. And the therapist, a PhD level clinical psychologist, who happened, God, to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I didn't know that when I selected him, laughed aloud. And I was like, well, that's inappropriate. You know, in my mind, I thought that's inappropriate. And the guy was like, Alice, a lot of things are going to happen, but you're never going to be poor again, because I was poor. And at the time, I didn't understand what he was trying to tell me. But he was trying to tell me something that is probably true for all of us. That when you are in the extraordinary, life-changing, life-saving process of practicing these principles in all of our affairs, that there's a kind of backslide that is no longer possible. That when I'm living in the sunlight of the Spirit, there's certain kind of harm that's not going to come to me. When I'm living right, I've said this so much, I regret saying it. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought this was a stop drinking program. I stayed here for a while, was going to the meetings and listening to you people. And then I found out there's no step 0. You can't help me stop drinking. You can help me stay stopped. And how do you help me stay stopped? Well, you help me stay stopped by finding God. And I was like, this is a Find God program. And I don't mean Christian God. I promise I don't mean white Jesus on the cross. I don't mean that. I mean the God you understand. Odin, the Orishas, Allah, Hamdu Allah. Whatever you believe God is, that's what I mean. The Most High, the power, the creator of all things. That when I cultivate that relationship with that power, that's the thing that really helps me. You know, my friend Ali H says, God doesn't keep you sober. Your relationship with God keeps you sober, right? And so then I'm like, oh, it's not a stop drinking program. It's a find God program. And then I was here for a while and I was reading the book and I was reading the book. And I love a book study. I was reading a book. I was reading a book. I was reading a book. And then I realized that this is a be useful program. This is a serve others program. Oh, you don't believe me? Let's see. Let's see. I got time to tell you this. When I do the first step is critical because the first step is understanding the problem. The other 11 steps are the solution. But the first step is understanding the problem. And here's just the truth, no matter what it is. If you got weeds in your yard, if you got a math, it doesn't matter what it is. Until you understand the problem, you absolutely, unless you're a lucky sucker, are not going to be able to find the right solution. Finding the right solution is premised on understanding the problem. What is the problem for me? Maybe for you, but certainly for me. When I read the summary of the steps, it looks like my first step problem's two-part. I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. That's certainly true. But when I read the book, I understand that my first step problem has 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? I'm bodily different than my fellows. I drink, I get thirsty. Put your hand up if you drink and get thirsty. You know, you think, oh, I'm going to have this drink and feel better. But oh my God, the more you drink, the more you need. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I don't understand what's wrong with the other people. Why they don't feel like that. I'm different than my fellows. First part of my first step problem. Second part of my first step problem. I have a voice in my head and it sounds like me. And she's a liar. You know, it begins at the top of page 23. The book says, written by Bill, says, the things that we've told you would be pointless and academic. If our guy didn't drink, why does he drink? And it says the problem centers in our mind. Now, it doesn't emanate from the mind. It centers from the mind. And it's in my mind. Come on, you guys. You know what I'm talking about, right? And it doesn't stop with drinking. You know what my mind tells me? If I lose weight. Oh, you ready for this one? I'm going to save up some money and get a Brazilian butt lift. I'm going to get a facelift. Yeah, that's what I think. Here's my current thinking. I'm going to buy a house with an in-ground saltwater pool, and then my life is good. Right? It's always something out, right? That the voice tells me things that are not true. And I'm the Amazon boxes, okay, I don't know who I'm talking to, but you know the person you are, you got too much stuff at your house. You just keep buying stuff. You bought something and you found you already had it. Yeah. Why? Because I'm seeking ease and comfort outside myself. I think that joy and happiness is when I have something outside of me. That's what the voice in my head tells me. But the third part of my first step problem for me, is the whole deal in Alcoholics Anonymous. Took me forever to figure this out. The whole deal. What is the third part of my first step problem? It is the delusion that I am disconnected from the source. And as a result of that, I think I am the source. In the book of Alcoholics Anonymous, at the very beginning, the doctor's opinion, before we even get into 1, 2, 3, when we're still in the Roman numerals, it says that we're restless, irritable, and discontent. Yeah. Another way to look at it is go to page 52 and look at the bedevilments. I'm having problems with my personal relations. I can't seem to make a living. I'm prey to misery and depression. I just need to stop at that. You ever watch the nature channels when the little bunny is out in the field and is hopping along and it's just as happy? It don't even see the hawk coming, and then swoosh, the hawk gets it. That's what prey is. That I don't even understand that misery is coming. I don't even understand that depression is coming, and swoosh. If you in Alcoholics Anonymous, you've had this. Here's what it used to look like for me. I would wake up in the morning, talking about fear. I would wake up in the morning, and as soon as my eyes opened, as soon as consciousness came back, I would be like the weight of the world would be on me. That sense of impending doom. Something bad was going to happen. Something bad was happening. Something bad had happened. Right? That internal feeling of despair that is so deep. That's how I got to you. I talk about it like my soul was on fire. And I believe that that is the third part of my first step problem, my spiritual malady. That I'm under the delusion that I am disconnected from the power. I'm coming back to how I use fear as an opportunity, and how it's not the bravado and the fight in me, but it's the humility. And I'm talking about that from the perspective of what it is that really Alcoholics Anonymous offers. It's not stop drinking. And I don't even know that it is about finding God. I mean, maybe, yeah, sure. I think it's about serving others. Because even if it's about finding God and I don't serve others, I blew the deal. Even if I find God and I don't serve you, I blew it. That the service of others, I'm going to come back to show you how I mean that. But in order to talk about that, I need to tell you what my problem is. And my real problem is that I suffer from the delusion that I am disconnected from the power. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about. Let me help you. You know how you don't want to, you came to Alcoholics Anonymous to surrender your drinking, but not your sex life? You know that part? That you just want to have the sex you want to have. You just want to spend the money where you want to spend it. You didn't come to surrender that to God, just your drinking, right? Because I think that God don't see everything. God see everything. I should tell you this. I shouldn't even say this aloud. This is a recorded meeting. The first time I did a fifth step, I thought I was supposed to write down the names of all the people I had sex with. And I said it to the sponsor, and the sponsor was like, oh my. And I thought to myself, that's not even all the people. I'm going to sleep with some more people. Okay, I shouldn't have said that. I wish that we could delete that part out, right? I don't really care about other people's judgment of me. I'm free. But in this walk that I'm doing about being connected to the power, right? This connection to the power is about my whole life. Everything about me is connected to the power. I connect to the power because I come to Alcoholics Anonymous not to surrender my drinking, but to surrender my whole life. All of me. That's how I get to the freedom. That's how I get to the humility. Because let me tell you what the bravado is that the reading is talking about. It's fake. It's fake. You know, and I think it's in Bill's story. No, I think it's in There's a Solution, and There's a Solution. It says that, we stop drinking and we're like the boy whistling in the dark. Oh, I'm not scared. That's what bravado is. It's fake. It's fake. Humility is real. Then when I say, God, I don't know, you guide me. God, I don't know why this is happening. What do you want me to do? God, I thought that this was what we was going to be doing, but that's not what we doing. Now what? I have this mantra thing where I'm just like, okay, God, that's my thing. Okay, God, because I don't know. With an Excel spreadsheet, a pivot table, a to-do list, I don't know. I don't know. And so this third part of my first step problem, my spiritual malady, I want to talk about that. Once I realized that my problem is three parts, I'm bodily different than my fellows. I have a voice in my head that sounds like me that never stops lying. She never stops. I'll tell you right now, she thinks that when I get an in-ground saltwater pool that runs parallel to a four-sided brick ranch, mid-century modern house, I'm gonna be happy. And I'm doing that too. I'm looking, but I know that it's not. I know the happiness is inside. I'm still looking for the house. And I feel disconnected from the power. I think that in that disconnection, I'm the power. I feel compelled to tell you this. This is for somebody. My first experience with God, right? Because I'm talking about how I get to humility, how I move away from bravado as a solution to dealing with fear or anger or resentment or worry. That's what I'm talking about. In order to do that, I have to have a God that I can turn to. So, what is my first experience with God, right? And step two, I get to look at that. And I realized that my first experience with God was I was a little girl and my mother couldn't take care of me. She left me with family. And when I was about 4, she came back to get me. Took my first drink at 4. First memory of taking a drink is my first memory of being alone with my mother. That should tell you everything about that relationship, right? Um, and what I realized is that she couldn't do better. She didn't abandon me. She couldn't do better. There are places in my life I can't do better. And I learned to have some humility. But my first memory of God was praying to God that God would kill my mother. I was living in a hell. I thought it was a hell. I mean, I think people get arrested now for what I lived through, right? It's just my story. But I can look back on that and see the value of that experience in my life. Do you know what I am? Strong, resourceful, resilient, indomitable. You just can't. You can't even run me over with a Mack truck. And what does it come from? Early suffering. That's what it comes from. And I would pray to God. I would pray to God. I would pray everything in my little body. I would pray to God. And then I would wake up and she would still be there. Why am I telling you this? Because that early experience of praying and not getting what I thought I wanted made me think there wasn't a God. And without realizing it as a little kid, I decided, well, if God's not going to help me, I'm going to be God. I didn't realize that. I had to do inventory, inventory, inventory. If you don't hear me say nothing else today, inventory, inventory, inventory. If you're not doing inventory, 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 inventory. If you're not doing inventory, inventory. Step 4, step 10, step 11, inventory. Oh my God, it's freedom. It's freedom. And I look back through inventory over the years, not once, over and over and over, I did it. And I could see that when God didn't give me what I wanted, I decided I was God. And here's my gift to you today. I want you to go back and look at your life. And I want you to see the places that you didn't get what you wanted from the power, and you decided you were the power. Because it's seeing that and surrendering those things that lead me to the deepest level of freedom that I enjoy today. It's the paradox of Alcoholics Anonymous, really of any spiritual path. That admitting defeat is victory. This is the paradox of it, right? And so in the second step, I can see that I thought that I was God. I had to get honest about what I believed in. You know, the second step question is, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe in what? A power that's not me. In a power that's not me. A power that can restore me to sanity. But then I wanted to really talk about, before I run out of time, 3 and 7. That's all I'm going to have time to talk about. The relationship between step 3 and step 7. Because what I'm trying to do is make the point that Alcoholics Anonymous is a serve other people program. It's not a stop drinking program. When I go into the third step, and a guy said this at a meeting, I'm going to just keep saying it like I said it. If I could really surrender in the third step, it'd be a 3-step program. Yeah, I can't really surrender. That's why there's no, I think, amen at the end of the third step prayer. There's no amen. That what I'm doing in the third step prayer is I'm facing the truth of my situation, and I'm asking God for help, the power that I believe in, and that I'm entering into an active, living, moving prayer in step 4, step 5, step 6. And I close that prayer in step 7. What is it that I'm doing in 3? I'm admitting the problem is me. God, relieve me from drinking? No. Relieve me from the bondage of self. Remember, I said in 2, I thought I was God? Yeah. So in 3, I'm like, God, relieve me from that. And then I ask God to take away my difficulties. You know what I say? So that I can go out and bear witness to other people. If you take away my difficulties, I'm a bear witness, which is what I do in 12. I make good on that deal in 12, right? But then I don't know what's blocking me. So I need inventory. I look at my resentments. I look at my fears. Oh boy. Hit me. Take my number. If you hit me on WhatsApp, it might take me a month to get back to you because I'm terrible on WhatsApp. I'm sorry, young. I'm just terrible on WhatsApp. I don't know. It's all I could do to keep up with my phone, my email, and my text messages. I'm sorry. And now I got TikTok. I'd be trying. But okay, you can hit me if you want to hit me, and I'll send you a fear inventory. The fear inventory really comes in part out of resentment because at the end in column 3 of all of the ways that I'm affected, I write my fear. And then at the end, that's in the 3rd column. In the 4th column, I talk about the 4 things, right? What was my behavior on the outside? What was my attitude? What was the delusion that I was living in, the lie I was telling myself? And then, right, was the fear. And so I take those 8 fears, the 7 from the 7 parts of self in the 3rd column, and the 1 from the 4th column. And I for every resentment, I have 8 fears. And I look at those fears and I ask myself, what's under that? What's under that? What's under that? That's how I get from bravado to humility. Because I find what's under that for me, is that I have what we call a self-limiting belief. My self-limiting belief, my core fear, is that it's impossible for somebody to love me. And then I can see that fear that's running my life and I can put it in the back seat. I can put it in the trunk. It's no longer driving the car. But in the 7th step, what do I say? In the 7th step, I say, God, take away the things that stand in the way of my usefulness to others. So in 3, I think it's about me. But in 7, I've grown and I see that it's about my ability to serve you. And why am I talking about that when I'm supposed to be talking about fear? Because the only way for me to overcome crippling fear is for me to find the path to seeing the truth about myself so that I can stop having bravado, like I'm running the show, and I can have true humility. Because in that place of true humility, I can easily, joyfully turn to God and say, okay, God, what is it that you'd have me be? What would you have me do? What is it that you want me to know? Who do you want me to help? How can I be useful? And that, my friends, is joy and freedom. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here.
Olis, thank you.